Hey everyone. So sorry I can't be there today. I just figured I would go over one of the problems again with you just so you can have a refresher on how to do it. So this was number 7 on your assignment from the other day. I wrote out the points. We have Q, R, S, and T, and we have to determine what type of quadrilateral it is. So my suggestion is always to first just like sketch a parallelogram or a quadrilateral rather and label it. The reason for this is so you can see which ones the diagonals are. So QS and RT. Most of you probably have figured out by now that it's in the order, it's every other. Of course, this isn't going to work. Okay. That it's every other point go together. So, like, sorry. Okay, so we have Q and S would go together as diagonals, CQS, and then R and T would go together. So for all 3 tests, parallelogram test, rectangle test, and rhombus test, you're going to use Q and S in the formula and then R and T in the formula. So the first thing that you want to do is the parallelogram test. So I like to label it. Okay, so for the parallelogram test, you want midpoints. We want the midpoints of the diagonals, and they're supposed to be the same. If they're the same, then it's a parallelogram. Okay, so I'm going to do Q and S. I'm actually going to write out Q and S like this, just so I can label them. So X1, Y1, X2, Y2. On your notes, you should have the midpoint formula. You add the X's, divide by 2, add the Y's, divide by 2. So it's, if you follow the formula on your notes, it's X1 plus X2 over 2. So it's going to be 3 plus negative 1 over 2. So X1, X2. And then it's a comma. And then it's Y1 plus Y2 over 2. So that's what it looks like when you plug it into the midpoint formula, and then we're going to reduce or simplify rather. So 3 plus negative 1 is 2, 2 over 2 is 1. 5 plus 1 is 6, 6 over 2 is 3. So the first one, QS, is 1 comma 3. So now I'm going to take R and T and plug it in and see if it's also 1 comma 3. So X1, Y1, X2, Y2, and again, I'm just going to plug it into the same formula. So X1 plus X2, 3 plus negative 1, Y1 plus Y2, 1 plus 5. 3 plus negative 1 is 2, 2 over 2 is 1. 1 plus 5 is 6, 6 over 2 is 3. So since these two are the same, yes, it is a parallelogram. If they were not the same, it would not be a parallelogram, and we would say it's a simple quadrilateral, which just means it's a quadrilateral that has no properties. It's simple, has nothing special about it. Most of the time, that's not going to happen. Most of the time, it will be a parallelogram. Okay, after we do the parallelogram test, we do the rectangle test next. For the rectangle test, we want lengths of the diagonals, which is distance formula. Okay, so again, I'm using QS and RT. So I already have it labeled right here. So I'm just going to use that label to plug into the formula. Remember, distance formula is the one with the big square root symbol. You should have it on your notes. We wrote it out when we took notes on this. All right, anyway, x2 minus x1. So it's going to be negative 1 minus 3 squared plus y2 minus y1, 1 minus 5. When you simplify distance formula, you have to simplify inside the parentheses first. So I'm going to redraw the big square root symbol. Negative 1 minus 3 is negative 4. 1 minus 5 is also negative 4. When you square a negative number, you're multiplying it by itself. So negative 4 times negative 4 is positive 16, also positive 16. So this is the square root of 32, which you could get the decimal for, but we actually don't really need it because we're really just comparing it to RT. So if RT is also the square root of 32, then it's, yes, it is a rectangle. Okay, so now I'm going to take R and T and plug it in. Big square root. x2 minus x1, negative 1 minus 3 squared, 5 minus 1 squared. Okay. Negative 1 minus 3 is negative 4. 5 minus 1 is 4. Again, 16 and 16. So it's looking like it's going to be a yes, which is also the square root of 32. Since this is the same as this, yes, it is a rectangle. So far it's a rectangle. Now we're going to do the rhombus test. The rhombus test is we test to see if the diagonals are perpendicular. If it is in fact a rhombus, then we would have yes, 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 which means it has all the properties, and that would make it a square, which we can talk about that after. Okay, so then lastly we have rhombus. For rhombus, we want slopes of diagonals. And we don't want them to be the same, remember? We want the slopes to be opposite reciprocals. So opposite signs and reciprocals of each other, meaning like they're flipped. So QS. So remember, slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I'm using these same points again, Q and S and R and T. So for QS, it's y2 minus y1, which is 1 minus 5, over x2 minus x1, negative 1 minus 3. 1 minus 5 is negative 4. Negative 1 minus 3 is also negative 4. Negative 4 over negative 4 would be positive 1. RT, y2 minus y1, so 5 minus 1, over x2 minus x1, negative 1 minus 3. 5 minus 1 is 4, positive 4. Negative 1 minus 3 is negative 4, which is negative 1. So 1 and negative 1 are in fact negative reciprocals. I know they're both whole numbers and not fractions, so it's kind of like hard to notice that. But remember, like 1 is really over 1. So if you flip 1 over 1, you still have 1 over 1 and make it negative, negative 1. So these are negative reciprocals of each other. So that means yes, it is a rhombus. So after you do your tests, so we did our 3 tests. Let me zoom out a little bit here. We did the parallelogram test, it was a yes. We did the rectangle test, it was a yes. We did the rhombus test, it was a yes. So our final conclusion, I have room on the bottom, I'll write it up here, is we're going to say QRST is a square. So it's only a square if you get yeses across the board. Yes, yes, yes. Now, something that might be helpful that we didn't really get to do in class is like make a chart of all your possible outcomes. So say, I'm going to make a list here. We have parallelogram test. We have rectangle test. We have rhombus test. Okay. So let's do the one we just got first. Yes, yes, yes. When you get yes, 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 your final conclusion is that it's a square. I guess I can zoom in a little bit more now. Okay, what if we got yes, yes, no? So yes, it's a parallelogram. Yes, it's a rectangle, not a rhombus though. That would just be a rectangle. If we got yes, no, no, that's just a parallelogram. Running out of room here already. If we got yes, no, yes, that would be a rhombus. I'll write this up a little bit nicer and put it on Classroom. I kind of ran out of room here. So if we got yes, it's parallelogram, no, it's not a rectangle, yes, it's a rhombus, then it's a rhombus. Actually, there's only one left. What if we got no, no, no? Then it's called a simple quadrilateral. Okay, so that's that. Let me know if you have any questions. You can email me or you can come for App Lab on Friday. All right, thanks guys. Have a good day.